Hello and welcome to another episode of The Living Philosophy. In this episode, we're going to explore how happiness might be a red herring, how it might not be the thing we're actually seeking. And I've kind of touched on this topic a few times before, but I think it's a really important lesson to kind of dig down into. And I just think, I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been looking at what is the highest ideal on each level of development. So in particular thinking about spiral dynamics and what is the ideal for someone at purple, someone at blue, someone at orange, someone at green, someone at yellow. Like how does the ideal change? And I think that happiness is such an interesting one because it's the thing that shakes the oranges into green, is that orange reaches the peak of like materialism and kind of you get your status in the world, you get your success in the world. So this is at that level in Maslow's pyramid where you're moving up towards self-actualization, and you realize that having that societal status, it isn't enough, it doesn't fulfill you. And that seems to, that's when people will come along, more left-minded people, maybe more towards the hippie-ish kind of side of things, and they'll say something like, that's not going to make you happy, that's not what life is about. And it seems to, I've seen even Naval talk about this, Naval would have been a great investor. I've seen him on Tim Ferriss talking about it and saying, he did so much with this investment company, and then it was just like, it wasn't making him happy. And it seems to, in some sense, devalue what goes before. But I think that it's important to realize that it doesn't invalidate what went before, and it's probably not necessarily the end goal either. So happiness is just a step along the way. It's an ideal that you identify with at some point on the journey. And I guess what spurred this today was I was reading some Nietzsche a while ago in Beyond Good and Evil. He's talking about the distinction between master morality and slave morality. And I was thinking about this in terms of within the individual. Now he kind of just leaves it at a kind of a cultural, historical kind of level, but I'm thinking about the aspects within us that are slaves and master. And I think it's the part of us that wants that happiness is the slave morality. Really, it's the part in us that feels overwhelmed, that wants to take a break, that just wants it's the dream of Eden. It's the dream of like the paradisal relaxing and taking it easy, and the life on the beach and the beach holiday at the end of 51 weeks of hard work. And it can seem like, that's the life and that's how it should always be, but it kind of lies in that sense. You don't want to go back to Eden. You don't want to live in Eden at all. Paradise is not like an eternal beach holiday. I think that would be hell for most people if they ever actually got to live it. And the reason is that there's more to life. There are more important things in life. And even once you look anywhere outside of green, I mean, obviously at the lower level, orange will say success, status, creating a lot of wealth. That's probably what's important. At blue, it might be being a good citizen, being an upstanding member of that community that you're a part of. Whereas once you move up to yellow, it can be something more like meaning. It can be having a meaningful life and doing something that contributes to the community as a whole, taking on extremely complex problems and solving them in order to uplift the community as an entirety. And that's not going to be an easy life. The example I often cite for this is Elon Musk, how, he takes on this heavy burden of extremely long work hours, and as he said on Joe Rogan, he's kind of miserable, but that thing of like working hard is that it's for a greater cause, and that invigorates the soul with something higher. That happiness isn't the end goal. Happiness is just a stage along the journey. And for Elon Musk, he's not chosen the path of happiness, he's chosen the path of meaning, the path of fulfillment, which we might say is a higher goal than happiness. You think of happiness as an affect, as that thing of like joy, or that levity, whereas fulfillment is something deeper, something with deep waters. And so Elon Musk, yes, he's not happy, he's not relaxed in that day-to-day kind of sense, but he's striving to solve problems for humanity as a whole, and you could see that as a yellow or a turquoise kind of thing. So that's identifying with something more closer to maybe fulfillment. And you move to turquoise then, to the colour that comes after yellow, and you look at, well, what is this highest ideal that we are seeking? And turquoise is, I guess you could look at the turquoise in Greta Thunberg. in the sense of talking about a global problem that we have, talking about something that we need to solve as a civilization, this is a much bigger problem, and it's much bigger than individual happiness or just people's happiness. And it's that thing of galvanizing the whole world. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be, it's not going to be a happy, chilling out like the 60s of the hippie movement. It's a much more serious kind of big endeavor. And you could look at that as that's not a movement that's dedicated about happiness. The ideal there isn't necessarily happiness. And it might take a lot of people to be personally unhappy. And this kind of ties in with the Nietzschean idea of the distinction between the Judeo-Christian idea of conscience, where the individual is guilty and God isn't, and the Greek idea where the gods are guilty. They're the ones that are messing up. So if anything goes wrong in your life, it's because the gods are messing with you. And within that, there's the easy path, which is kind of the Greeks, that life-affirming path, that it probably makes life easier, but long-term, maybe there's been more fruits out of that Judeo-Christian, out of that difficulty of being conscious and having a heavy conscience. And that's a kind of a neuroticism. You're thinking more and more about these things. They're troubling your soul, but that leads to perhaps great rewards over the centuries and millennia. And so happiness can be seen as that slave morality kind of ideal. But what about a master morality ideal, or something the other side of you? So I was talking about how this is within the personal, individual level. You've got that slave morality within you, that part of you that serves. And that is the part that wants that beach holiday. Because that's within us all, there's this inner tie of like, you want to, every personal development thing, every diet is in a sense, it's a domination. It's as Nietzsche would say, a will to power. You're trying to dominate some other part of yourself, and there's a delight in that commanding. If you feel like you're in control of your life, there's a fantastic feeling there, and you start throwing on more and more weights and burdens as you feel more and more in control of your life. Whereas if your life is constantly an act of willpower, an exertion of willpower and struggle, then you're probably not going to get that same buzz. You're going to want the break because you feel like someone else is throwing the load, and you don't feel like you're the one commanding. You feel like you're the one obeying, and you're doing it because you should. You're doing it because you have to. Different reasons. Whereas the person who reaches, like, you think of like a Tony Robbins, that kind of like self-development of taking on so much and taking on great challenges and loving the challenges in life, that's the commander, that's the master morality within you. And again, this is like Alexander Solzhenitsyn, this is within the heart of every individual, like good and evil. And it's that master side is within you when you feel like, yes, I am in control of my life, yes, we can do something more here, something more. And that's maybe, if you map that out long enough, that's probably how you get someone like Elon Musk. And it's not someone that's seeking a holiday, it's someone that's seeking the greatest challenge, to strive to achieve the greatest challenge. And it's two very different mindsets there. And so I think happiness might not even lend itself to being happy, because it can be just a disillusion. It's an interesting thing. Can you even find happiness by striving for it? And so the thing with happiness there is that I don't think it's actually that helpful a goal if you're trying to live an important life, a meaningful life. And happiness is something that probably doesn't lend itself to being chased anyway, and happiness is probably a byproduct of a good life. So something like meaning might be a better regulating goal, a regulating idea, or fulfillment, seeking something that's going to make you feel good about your life and feel proud of your life, and would make you feel like, yes, I've left something good behind, rather than, yes, I've had a lot of good days, I enjoyed a lot of things, I had this kind of carpe diem attitude. Well, maybe getting your hands dirty and getting down to nitty gritty of life, that's going to be more fulfilling, and that's what's going to be more of a motivating thing, a more fulfilling thing on your deathbed. And so that's just what I wanted to cover today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Living Philosophy. If you have, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'd love to hear from you down in the comments if you have any insights or anything you'd like to add. Otherwise, I shall see you next time. Thank you for watching.